I watched the color drain from Elena's face, a slow, ghostly transformation that started at her forehead and washed down to her throat until she looked like a statue carved from ice. The fork she was holding, laden with the expensive honey-glazed ham she'd insisted we buy for this celebratory family dinner, clattered against her fine china plate with a sound like a gunshot. Around the table, the happy chatter of our parents and her sister died instantly, replaced by a heavy, suffocating silence. But the silence didn't last because the speakers in our living room were still blaring. It wasn't the sound of a French tutor explaining verb conjugations. It was the sound of my wife, breathless and frantic, and the voice of a man I'd known since middle school, whispering things into a microphone that no language app should ever contain. But I'm getting ahead of myself. To understand why I chose to destroy my marriage in front of a dozen witnesses and a half-eaten dinner, I need to take you back to where the first crack appeared. Because for 10 years, I thought I was living a life that people envied. Elena and I were the it couple in our circle. I'm an architect, she's a senior marketing director, and we had the house in the Oak Park suburbs to prove it. We had routines that felt like rituals. Thursday night steaks at Luca's, Saturday morning bike rides, the way she'd always tuck her cold feet under my legs while we watched movies. She called me Bear, I called her Elle, and I honestly believed we'd be the couple holding hands in the nursing home 50 years from now. Everyone told us we were perfect. My mother constantly reminded me how lucky I was to have a woman who was as brilliant as she was beautiful. That should have been my first warning. The perfection was a mask, and the first time I saw it slip was 3 months ago. It started with a promotion, or at least the promise of one. Elena came home one Tuesday night glowing and told me that her firm was looking to expand their European accounts, specifically in Paris. She said she needed to be fluent or at least conversational within 6 months to secure the lead position. I was thrilled for her. I even offered to pay for a private tutor, but she waved me off. I found this incredible new app, Bear, she told me, tapping her phone. It's called LingoVault. It's an immersion-based program. It uses secret AI-driven voice feedback to correct your accent. It's super high-tech. I didn't think twice about it. But then the lessons started taking over our lives. Elena would spend hours with her AirPods in. She started retreating to the guest room at 9 p.m. every night, claiming she needed total silence for the oral exams. If I walked in to ask her a question, she'd jump like I had fired a starter pistol and quickly lock her screen. She'd get this look, not of guilt, but of intense, focused irritation. "I'm in the middle of a module, Mark. You're going to mess up my progress," she'd snap. If that was all I found, maybe I could have let it go. Maybe I could have chalked it up to work stress. But then I noticed the immersion seminars. She started taking overnight trips to Chicago for intensive weekend workshops. When I asked why a phone app required an overnight stay in a downtown hotel, she looked me dead in the eye and said, "It's about the community, Mark. We practice with other students. Don't you want me to succeed?" She made me feel like the villain for even asking. But my gut wasn't listening to her excuses. My gut felt like it was being twisted by a cold, greasy hand. And then came the receipt.
I was looking for a boring tax document in our shared home office when I found a crumpled slip of paper in the back of the trash can. It was a bill from the Gwen, a luxury hotel downtown. It was for a Tuesday night, a night she told me she was working late at the office. There were 2 names on the incidentals for room service, Elena and someone named M. Sterling. My heart didn't just drop. It felt like it disintegrated. I knew an M. Sterling, Mark Sterling, my business partner, my best friend since the 6th grade, the man who stood as my best man at our wedding, the man who was the godfather to my brother's kids. I sat on the floor of that office for 20 minutes, just breathing. I wanted to scream, to throw the desk through the window, but a cold, hard clarity took over instead. I realized that if I confronted her then, she'd lie. She'd say it was a business lunch that turned into a meeting, or that Mark was helping her with a marketing strategy. She was a pro at spinning narratives. I needed something undeniable. I knew she did her lessons on her iPad when she was in the guest room. That night, while she was in the shower, I took her iPad from her nightstand. I'd guessed her passcode months ago. It was our wedding date. The irony felt like a physical weight in my chest.
I looked for the Lingo Vault app. It wasn't on the home screen. I had to search the library. When I found the icon, a generic-looking blue vault, I tapped it. It didn't ask for a language preference. It asked for a secondary PIN. I tried her birthday. Nothing. I tried her mother's birthday. Nothing. Then I tried 0612, the date of Mark Sterling's birthday. The app opened. It wasn't a language app. It was a vaulted messaging service, disguised to look like an educational tool from the outside. There were no verb conjugations. There were folders, dozens of them, and they weren't filled with texts. They were filled with voice notes. I put on my headphones, my hands shaking so badly I almost dropped the device. I clicked the most recent one, dated from her seminar weekend. "I can still smell you on my skin," Elena's voice whispered through the buds. It was a tone she hadn't used with me in years. Hungry, desperate, raw. I hate going back to the house. I hate pretending. The French excuse is working perfectly. He has no idea. "I love you, Mark." And then, his voice. "I love you too, Elle. Soon. We just need to get through the next few months until the bonus hits. Then we're out of here." I felt like I was drowning. My vision blurred, and the room seemed to tilt on its axis. This wasn't just a fling. This was a demolition project. They were waiting for her year-end bonus to leave me. My best friend and my wife were planning a future on my dime and my silence. I knew exactly what I was going to do, but I had to be patient. I spent the next 3 days acting completely normal. I kissed her goodbye. I asked her how her accent was coming along. I even joked about how we'd celebrate her promotion with a big family dinner. She had no idea what was coming. I was a ghost haunting my own life, waiting for the right moment to strike. That moment was tonight. I invited everyone. Her parents, who practically worshipped her. My parents, who thought she was the daughter they never had. Her sister, Sarah, who always looked up to Elena as the perfect woman. I told them we were celebrating Elena's mastery of the language and her upcoming promotion. The dinner was elaborate. I spent all afternoon cooking. I wanted the environment to be as warm and perfect as possible to make the contrast even more jarring. As we sat down to the main course, I stood up with my wine glass, tapping it with a spoon. "I'd like to make a toast," I said, my voice steady, though my heart was hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird.
Elena beamed at me. She looked radiant in a cream-colored sweater, the picture of a successful, loving wife. "Oh, Bear, you don't have to," she giggled. "No, I do," I said, smiling at her parents. "Elena has been working so hard lately. These French lessons, they've taken up so much of her time. Late nights, weekend seminars, hours of oral practice. I thought it would be a shame if we didn't all get to hear the progress she's made." I saw a flicker of something in her eyes. Confusion. A tiny spark of fear. "Mark, what are you doing?" she whispered. "I wanted to surprise you," I said. I pulled my phone out of my pocket. I had already synced my phone to the smart TV in the living room, which was connected to the open-concept dining area. The iPad was hidden in the sideboard, logged into the vault, synced to my device. "I managed to get into your Lingo Vault app, Elle. I wanted to play a sample of your final exam for everyone. I think your parents would be so proud to hear how fluent you've become." "Mark, stop," she said, her voice dropping an octave. She started to stand up. "Give me the phone. That's private." "Why? It's just French, right?" I looked at her father. "You'd love to hear her French, wouldn't you, Bill?" I didn't wait for an answer. I hit the cast button. The large 65-inch screen in the living room flared to life. The audio system, which I'd turned up to maximum earlier, boomed. The first voice note started. It wasn't French. It was the sound of a hotel room door clicking shut, followed by the unmistakable sound of Elena laughing, that high-pitched girlish laugh she only used when she was truly happy. "Finally," her voice came through the speakers, crystal clear. I thought he'd never leave for the office. "I'm so sick of playing the doting wife, Mark. It's exhausting." Then Mark Sterling's voice. "Just a little longer, baby. We've got the house in Scottsdale picked out. Once you get that bonus, we're gone. Let him keep the Chicago house. It's a doom anyway." The room went so silent I could hear the hum of the refrigerator. Elena's mother gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. My father looked like he'd been struck in the face. Elena herself was frozen, her mouth slightly open, her eyes darting toward the door like a trapped animal. I hit the next button. This one was worse, more graphic, more intimate. The sounds of their betrayal filled the room, bouncing off the walls of the home I had designed for us. "Is that the
Paris promotion? I asked, my voice calm, almost conversational. I looked at her sister Sarah, whose jaw was literally hanging open. Or maybe that's just a new way to conjugate betrayal. Elena finally found her voice, but it was a screech. Turn it off, Mark, turn it off right now. She lunged for me, but I stepped back, holding the phone high. Why? We're just celebrating, I snapped. The calm was gone now, replaced by a cold, sharp rage. Does Bill know his daughter is a liar? Does my mother know her perfect daughter-in-law is planning to run away to Arizona with my business partner? Does everyone like the ham? I thought it paired well with the sound of my life being set on fire. I turned to her parents. She wasn't learning French. She was learning how to hide a life. She used an app designed for cheating. She thought I was too stupid to notice. Elena was sobbing now, great ugly heaves that shook her whole body. It isn't what it sounds like. Mark, please, let me explain. Explain what? I asked, stepping toward her. I felt 10 feet tall and made of stone. Explain the Scottsdale house. Explain the bonus. Or maybe explain why Mark is currently waiting for you at the bar down the street because you told him I'd be distracted by this dinner. Her face went from pale to ghostly. How did you?
I have his GPS, Elle. We're business partners, remember? We share a fleet tracking app for the firm. I looked at my watch. He's probably wondering why you haven't texted him back. I looked around the table. The perfect dinner was ruined. Wine was spilled, chairs were pushed back, and the woman I loved was revealed as a stranger. The house is already listed, I said, my voice dropping to a whisper that carried further than the scream. I filed the paperwork this morning. Your things are in the guest room, the room where you practiced your lessons. You have until tomorrow morning to be out. And tell Mark that the partnership is over. I'm buying him out for pennies on the dollar, or I'm taking these recordings to the board and his wife. His choice. I didn't stay for the crying. I didn't stay for her mother's apologies or her father's shame. I walked out of the dining room, through the front door, and into the cool night air. It's been 6 months since that dinner. The divorce was fast. The voice notes made sure of that. Her bonus ended up going mostly to her legal fees. Mark lost everything. His wife left him, and I took full control of the firm. Sometimes when I'm sitting in my new apartment overlooking the city, I think about that night. I don't feel bitterness anymore. I just feel a strange sense of peace. People ask me if I'm lonely, but the truth is I've never felt less alone, because for the first time in 10 years, I'm not living with a stranger. I'm living with the truth. And the truth, as it turns out, is the only language I ever really needed to learn.